Alright, you Zog and Zogwits, it's time for some more orc lore. Hello everybody. Alrighty, today we'll be covering the different kinds of orc boys. So basically the orc boys and their weapons. So first up, we're gonna have shooters. So these weapons are your basic, what you would consider an assault rifle kind of scenario. A little bit longer range than their sluggas. Well, we're going to start here because they're a little bit more finicky, a little bit more fun, I guess, in my mind. And as you can see by the representations here, each clan of orcs has a slightly different take on it. But above all else, orcs love loud noises. They figure the louder the gun, the better the boom, so to speak. The more damage it will do. And what orcs believe is true. So I like it. But no, so shooters in general are their, your average assault rifle style weapon. Fully automatic, always, louder better. That's all that really matters. Like you see the difference between the Death Skulls one and the Goth one. The Goth has a bayonet attached to it, which shows a slightly more increased intelligence behind it. Whereas Death Skulls, they believe in the luck of blue. Goth really like having utilitarian things. We'll get into different factions another time. But for right now, just understand that the shooters themselves are each individual towards each one of the different factions. They all function basically the same way. They shouldn't. And I mean that most literally. If a Imperial trooper kills an orc and runs out of las bolts and picks up the orc rifle, it will not fire. If they're lucky, it will stay together. There have been many cases where they go to pick them up and they just kind of fall apart. That has to do with warg, energy, and things like that. That's what actually makes them function. Their belief in the gun, that it will in fact shoot, is what makes it shoot. This is a warp power, though the orcs don't really understand warp and things of that nature. They utilize warp energy. And the more there are, the more orcs there are, the larger the amount of warg energy. So these would be used mostly by orc shooter boys. As you can see here, this is a Death Skulls shooter boy. And they would use them to fire endless amounts of ammunition to the enemy. Now, if you notice, this particular one in this picture almost looks like a bolt gun, like an Imperial's bolt gun. And be it between the magazine and the way the back of it works and the side charging handle and all that stuff is very reminiscent of your average bolt gun used by Space Marines. Well, Death Skulls in particular, Goth as well, will often salvage parts and different things and put them together to make the gun. So if they fight a lot of Space Marines, a lot of their weapon looks like Imperial Space Marines. On the flip side, if they fight a lot of Eldar, they will have weird, skinny guns that sound really loud, that shouldn't make any noise at all. But that's just how their weapons work. As they increase in complexity and the more orcs there are, the better weapons that they get. But your average orc won't actually have a shooter. He will have this, which is a slugga and an axe of some sort, or a large metal object that he can beat things with, and often known as a choppa. So orcs often have choppa slugger combinations because they don't like to be slowed down. Orcs love to run headlong into their enemies. This is the most prominent, though I do not believe in my personal opinion, the most fun. I like the way the shooter boys think. I like the idea of carrying around what seems like an endless amount of ammunition and firing it at the enemy, because they never run out of ammo. because they can pick up rocks, put it in their gun, and it will shoot them. As long as a mech boy has told them it'll do so. They will believe it, and it will be so. But on average, they have the Shuda, or the Slugga, which is the name for the pistol, and a Choppa of some sort. That is your average makeup of every single orc out there, though they do differentiate in size and type. We will get into that. So you go from that to mech boys. So mech boys will often have far more sophisticated machinery, be it external apparatuses such as this one, where it's almost a exoskeletal suit, kind of like Terminator armor or Space Marine armor in a sense. Giant claws for, well, smushing heads, basically, for the most part. That's all you're going to do with it. You're going to pop their heads like little zits. A little bit overkill, but what's an orc without overkill? I mean, if you can smush a Hume head and a Space Marine head, you might as well smash an orc head to go along with it, you know? And then you have the firearm attached to the other arm. And now these are permanently affixed to the armor. Sometimes the claws are permanently affixed to the orc. Not always. Sometimes they are attached to the armor. But for the most part, the claws will usually be straight up attached to the orc. There is one particular case where all lore was thrown out the window. Though for good reason, if you ask me, because it's an awesome story. About Commissar Yarif, if I'm getting that name right. He was on Armageddon, and he had his arm chopped off by an orc. He picked up an orc claw and attached and used it in his arm. Now, in all honesty, this is pure unadulterated heresy. Though he was never punished for it, he did get retired afterwards. He did win the battle because he did this. He chopped the arm off of an orc, took his power claw, and proceeded to kill many orcs with it attached to him, which makes no logical sense. It shouldn't work. But Yarif, I guess, had a little bit of orc in him, maybe, is one way to put it. In fact, Gazgul Thraka sent him back, basically captured him and sent him back to Armageddon before the second attack and said, no, we're gonna fight. And then Yarif was in retirement. Sorry, I'm getting off on a little tangent here, but I don't like when lore doesn't exactly work right, but I do like this lore because it is very good. It makes you think. It makes things better. So having a little bit of lore discrepancy as far as orc weapons not working when touched by anything else other than an orc. But a mech boy is the more intelligent individual. Not all mech boys not only mech boys wear suits of armor. You can have warlords do that too, but they are made by mech boys. So in general, but they have more sophisticated weaponry, be it two-barrel weapons, combi weapons such as big Shudo with a, sorry about that hiccup, Shudo with a flamer attached, or some other combination, rocket launcher, flamer, whatever it might be, right? So they have combi weapons, or in this particular case, as you see here, two Shudas attached to each other, also known as a big Shuda, because it's bigger than a normal Shuda. And orcs are simple and fun. But yeah, so that is what a mech boy is. Now, you have Ludas. Now, they use really big weapons. As you can see here, they love their big, loud noises, right? They are longer range, usually larger caliber, heavy weapon type things. And this is basically the pinnacle of what a normal orc, non-mechoid orc can get a hold of. So the orc who wants the biggest boom ends up becoming a Luda and gets the biggest gun of them all. Now, there are many variants herein, where they can have zappy guns, las gun styles, or light guns. Depends on which lore you read, what they call it. But there are many different variations of the Luda's gun. But for the most part, they're going to be great big calibers, shooting lots and lots of bullets forever. And to show you some of to show you some of those things there. So you have that. This is the apparatus. You see the apparatus for one of the biggest guns of all, which is basically it's a teleport gun. Best way to put it, in the top right corner there. Then you have your Luda's gun there, your heavy weapon. Remember how I talked about longer, more cylindrical weapons? They call that one a big shooter in this particular art, which makes it longer barrel, machine gun-esque. But in all honesty, that would be also a weapon you would see reminiscent on a planet with Eldar-based weaponry. You have your choppa, which is a single-bladed, single-hand weapon. And you have your big choppa, which is, as you can imagine, orcs aren't difficult. Big choppa is just a bigger one, so it uses two hands. And underneath that, you see the custom Mega Blaster, which is one of my favorite guns in all of it, which is basically a plasma weapon. And it is used by Ludas and on many of their mechs and things like that. Custom Mega Blasters are my favorite weapon in the entire orc arsenal. I can't help it. And then to the left of that, you see the shooter again, and then the slugger in more detail, close up there, and then the rocket launcher, which is basically the rocket on the end of a stick. Good luck. But for orcs, it works. And then stick bombs, which is basically pack as much explosive as you can and throw it as far as you can. And you have your power claw there as well, which we already went over. But yeah, so this is the basic breakdown of their weapons. Now, there are some specialty situations such as this. Now, I only bring this up because it is not, in my opinion, it does not yet fall underneath the mechanoid yet. The truly mechanoid, as in, Stompas and things like that, which we will get to in our next video this week, some of their war machines. We will go over some of them. I will not get through all of them. But this guy has for the lack of a better term, a rocket strapped to his back. He hits a button, he flies through the air, and he shoots at things and falls down upon them. He is a guided missile in most cases. But it is the Orc Jump Trooper. He usually has a shooter with a specialized, almost always a drum magazine on the bottom, so he doesn't have to reload, because his other hand is utilizing the utilizing the go switch, as they like to call it, the takeoff switch. But that is your basic breakdown of the different kinds of orcs. Not much to it, in all honesty, but it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. But just always remember, you guys are a bunch of Zolgan Zogwits, and we'll see you next time.